Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Hooves back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The Hawks get a hard-fought victory, sweeping Boston in the regular season, not the season series, in Boston. The two games that Boston has in Boston, Hawks have won now both of those games after tonight, 119-115 in overtime over the Celtics in a game where the Hawks continue to turn heads, beating the defending champs and one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, now going ahead and adding to their great record against the top teams in the East. So Hawks win tonight. Big win for them. Jalen Johnson returns to the lineup also in the game. He had a pretty good performance. Obviously a little rusty offensively, but you could feel the impact of Jalen being in the game. And Dyson Daniels coming up clutch, really after last game, giving them the offense that they need, especially in these types of games, really big as well. And can't forget about Onyeka Okongwu, continues to come up big. So we're going to talk about all that on the Believe in Hawks episode. Obviously, guys, if this is your first time tuning into the Believe in Hawks episode, if you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment on any discussion point that we make during the pod. And I love to hear from you guys. Obviously, same thing from my audio listeners as well. Leave a rating, leave a review, tell your friends about Believe in Hawks. Let's get people more aware of the podcast for sure as we continue to grow this. And I hope you guys will come along for the ride with me. You know what I'm saying? I can't give you a deluxe album like LeBron and say, like, hey, two more for y'all. But I can tell you that this journey, like I say at every beginning of every season, every year is a different journey with the Hawks. But, so the Hawks win tonight in a game where really, the Hawks, the way this game started tonight was kind of how the Hawks were like in the beginning of the season. Kind of slow starts, sloppy, just like, and Boston took advantage. And they won the first quarter, 33-21, 12-point lead. Again, this is the Boston Celtics. They have offensive firepower. They have the ability to blow teams out, and they have the ability to just make it ugly in a hurry, especially in Boston, right? But the Hawks have done something they've done multiple times this season, especially against some of the best in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland is an example. They'll start off not great, but they work their way back. And they just start to play cleaner basketball, limit the turnovers, good efficient offense. The defense takes a notch up, and then they're either leading, tying the game's closer. Second quarter, Hawks won that quarter 31-15. You know how hard it is to keep this Boston Celtics team to only 15 points in a quarter? The Hawks did that and scored 31. So they turned it up another notch in the second quarter and completely stifled Boston's offense. Boston went through like a 3-4 minute stretch without scoring a basket in that quarter. And so the Hawks, again, defense has been something that has been up and down for this team, but we've seen at full strength. And they're not even at full strength because Riche didn't play tonight. And he's been a good defender for him this season. But Krejci is no slouch either. But you've seen that against the best teams, the Hawks are able to still play well defensively and keep the game within arm's reach, even if their offense is not clicking. And that's one thing I think that has really helped the team this year, because I've said years past, especially the last couple of years, they have not been able to stop teams, so they have to score or else they're going to lose. And now they can kind of say, even if our offense isn't going, we have a good enough defense that we can still stifle you and still be able to stay in the game, right? And they did that, right? So then you go into the second half. Celtics win the third quarter 30-21. They kind of got back on track. Hawks had about, I think, a 10-point lead at some point in the quarter. And then Celtics make a run, get the lead back, and you're like, all right, well, Boston looks like they're back in control. It looks like they figured things out, and they're in good shape. So then the fourth quarter comes, right? Obviously, that's anybody's quarter. Hawks lost the first quarter, won the second quarter, lost the third quarter. They want to have a chance to win this game or get in overtime, they have to win the fourth. They win the fourth quarter 31-26. And some big plays down the stretch, obviously. And I want to talk about something Quin talked about. There was a play late in that fourth quarter where Trae was about to be doubled. And maybe in years past, Trae would have pulled up and taken that three ball. But in this game, he passed it to Hunter, and Hunter missed the shot, right? But Quinn mentioned that play. He talked about that play after the game. And he just was like, that's the right basketball play to make. And he said you could see it even after that play. They both were like, that was the right play. And he said that's the type of play that winning teams make, that winning teams do. And I think Quinn is seeing this growth and saying, if we want to become one of those teams, like a Boston, like a Cleveland, like a Denver, like these teams, those are the types of plays we have to make. We have to become more comfortable making. We have to want to make for us to take that next step. Because at the end of the day, you live, every time that ball goes up, you're going to live with it. Either it falls or it doesn't. There's, you know what I'm saying? You just shoot it the best you can. But as long as you're making the best play, you have a chance. And so I just wanted to touch on that for a second. But missed the shot, right? Before that, I think Trae Young hit a big three. Boston came back to the lead. Peyton Pritchard obviously hit a couple big threes in the fourth quarter. He's been obviously a hot flamethrower from three. Down the stretch, jump ball, Yuka Kongu made some big plays down the stretch. Kind of got into a bit of a tussle with Jason Tatum. A little bit funny. And of course, the referees tonight were not great at all. There were definitely some calls. I mean, and it's weird when you have refs that allow the game to be physical, because then it's like when they do call that ticky-tack foul, it's like, you know what I'm saying? And if it feels like the other team's not getting called for that same stuff, this is why you think there's bias in the game. There may be like a sell job going on, because you're like, this isn't fair both sides. But, you know, a lot of shenanigans down the stretch. Ultimately, the Hawks almost lost this game because first they couldn't, I remember, I would do the last 24 seconds. Hawks could not inbound the ball. They inbounded the ball. Boston was grabbing Trae Young. No call, right? So literally no one was open. They tried to get it to Jalen. Turnover. So you're like, okay, Boston's up 2 at this point, I believe. So then Trae, obviously upset, barks at the ref. Ref tees him up. Obviously, in that situation, if you're Trae, you can't really get teed up in that situation, even if you're frustrated, just because of how close the game is. Jason Tatum hits the clutch technical free throw, right? You're thinking, okay. Drew Holiday, I think, got fouled before that. I believe it was Drew Holiday. And so takes 2 free throws at the line. Or maybe it was Derek White. Might have been Derek White, actually. He takes 2 free throws at the line. Makes the first 4-point game. Misses the second. Hawks go down. And they're able to get a couple of possessions where they're able to score the ball. And basically, I think the Hawks scored. And then I believe Drew Holiday turned the ball over, which then gave him another possession. And then Trae got fouled, and then he tied the game, and then they went to overtime. And then in overtime, kind of some baskets were being traded. And ultimately, the Hawks were able to come out on top with Yuka getting a clutch rebound after Jalen Johnson missed 2 free throws down the stretch. And the Hawks were able to win the game in overtime. So one thing that I think really stood out to me tonight with the Hawks is they've played Boston over the last couple of years pretty close. You know, there's been games where the Hawks obviously get blown out. First game of the season, right? We played them in Atlanta. They blew us out. Hawks, for the most part, when they beat Boston, they played the type of game they played tonight. Kind of a ugly game. Tatum and Brown did not have a great game tonight, which was great on the Hawks defense. Just continues to show how the defense has grown. And, you know, with that growth, I think they've, in 2 games now in Boston, in very close ball games, have been able to come out on top, which again builds confidence, shows where the team can play in clutch, like late hoop basketball, half court offense, trying to create the best possession. And listen, sometimes you're not always going to create the best possession, but you know, you've been finding more success than the other team, and that's really what all that matters is at the end of the day is, can you find more success than the other team can when it comes to late game buckets, late game heroics, whatever. But you're getting key performances from guys like Kongwu, who's been huge these last 3 games. Him tonight, I've always said against Boston, Onyeka is going to finish games against Boston. Like Boston is Onyeka's team to play and really thrive against, especially tonight with no Porzingis and no Al Horford. Right, so you know who you're competing with. You know who you have to defeat on the front court for you to have a good game if you're a Kongu, and he did that tonight. You could see the impact of Jalen Johnson coming back and just what he brings to the table. Right, double tonight for him. And so I do want to touch on, and sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place, guys. It's a bit late here. It's my birthday, so I was out a little bit, but I still want to get this pod out because I got to go to work tomorrow. But I want to touch on Trae. Trae Young, after the game, posted a picture of him and Quin Snyder. Just typical after game photo he posts on his Twitter. Hashtag we move, right? And I quoted that tweet and I said, I think this is a good time to say that this pair has been a great decision for both of their careers. Because I mean, listen, I remember after we fired Nate, people were calling Trae a coach killer. And, I think sometimes the coaching in the NBA can be sometimes undervalued because sometimes when you have stars, there's this perception, well, if you just have a bunch of talent, the talent can overcome how bad the coaching or the coach if he's not the greatest, right? And I think with the NBA kind of changing because the CBA's change and how teams now have to build their rosters, I think coaching is now becoming even more important. And so it's very important to have the right coach with a group of players. There's just certain coaches that can get more out of a group of players or player than other coaches. And I've always stand by this, that Lloyd Pierce and Nate McMillan cannot get the most out of Trae Young. Trae Young was just a great player, so he's going to give you Trae Young numbers and Trae Young stats and Trae Young plays. But in terms of getting him, in terms of the full game of basketball truly invested, you needed the right guy. And I think Quin was the right guy for him. And Trae has been bought into Quin since he's gotten there. And he's been adamant about it since he's gotten there. And that's why, for me, through all the stuff people have said about Quin Snyder, it's not his fault. He had a flawed roster that didn't fit what he wanted to do, that didn't fit his system, that didn't fit his vision. You gave him a roster that couldn't defend backcourts. What is he supposed to do with that? Like, people were trying to say, well, Nate had a better listen. Every year is different. Certain plays go a certain way. And so then, yeah, you can get those wins, and then the next year you don't get those wins. But, I mean, tonight, Trae Young, I mean, you saw, to me, I was impressed defensively with Trae tonight. I mean, he played a really good defensive game for him. Boston tried to switch multiple times and try to attack Trae tonight. And Trae did a great job of really trying to, when they went after him, he knew where his help was. And he tries to direct them to his help. That's how you get past it if you're not a great team or a great defender. You always want to try to get the offensive player to go in the direction of where your help is. So, because if he doesn't, you're already not a good defender. And if you don't, now the team is going to be scrambling, trying to make sure he doesn't get a free lane to the basket or whatever. And then that can completely get defense off guard or off their P's and Q's, and the offense can take advantage. Trae did a really good job tonight of being able to direct them in the way of their help, which I think helped with the Hawks defensively tonight. I mean, and Trae has, you've seen over these couple of years with Quin, there's been a more of an increased effort on Trae Young's defensive side of the ball as well, because he understands, hey, if we're going to win, I have to defend in some level. And that's the thing. If he defends in some capacity, the Hawks will be fine. But it's just he has to do it. And he's finally found a coach who I think has bought into him, and he's bought into Quin, the investment between the two guys, and understanding, hey, listen, if we're going to win here, we have to do these things. Like this isn't a if or and or but. This is a Trae, we have to do this. And Trae is hearing Quin loud and clear and saying, okay, I hear you. And now you're seeing it. You see, especially in these big games. Everybody remembers that play against the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Cup where that man, Trae, was on the other side of the court, ran all the way to the corner to defend the three-point line. Trae Young would have done that in the past. And you're seeing it now. And that shows you the growth he's made. They've talked about and documented his growth as a person, taking Ricochet in under his wing, talking to Dyson Daniels, hanging out with the guys, being more of a leader, being more of a sociable person. Not that he wasn't sociable, but just someone who is investing in his teammates and involving his teammates more with him. There was a play, I think Ricochet last time he played, he was struggling. Trae talking to Ricochet saying, it's okay, you're good. Things like that, the little things that really mattered for Trae Young. And you're seeing it on display. And I think Quin Snyder was just the right guy to get the most out of him. And I think for Quin, when you went through your Utah experience, you had Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, it didn't end the way you wanted. A lot of stuff happened, right? You get a new chance with a new team, new situation. Obviously, a different situation. Came in midseason, basically after the All-Star break. And, you were tasked with, hey, can you get the most out of him? And can you also build a culture and build an identity in Atlanta? And I think when you go through a process of that, it's not always going to be pretty. Sometimes it's ugly because you're trying to weed out kind of the people who aren't bought in and invested. Listen, Bogey said it at the end of last year's press conference and the in-ear pressers. Not everybody was bought in. I don't think this year you have a single person on this team who's playing and they're not bought in. Everybody is bought into what Quin is preaching. And you're seeing the coaching that people are raved about with Quin. There's a reason why when we hired Quin, some people considered him a top 10, top 12 NBA head coach. There is a reason why people considered him that. And you kind of are seeing it now with this version of the Atlanta Hawks, because he finally has people who fit his vision, fit what he wants to do. Still, like I said, there's things that can be better. This isn't the full 100% version. And yet now you have won 3 straight. You beat Boston twice. You beat the Knicks twice. You beat Cleveland twice. You're beating the best teams in the East. Now you're looking like a dangerous team. You're currently, last time I checked, the 6th seed, which means you wouldn't be in the play-in today. And now people are starting to ask questions. Should the Hawks go for it? Should they make a big trade? Should they try to go get another star? And the thing is, I think the Hawks are very comfortable where they are. They may trade a couple of guys, but I don't think anything huge is going to happen with the Atlanta Hawks when it comes to that trade deadline. I could be wrong. But I just think they're going to stay with the process, because that's the thing that they've done that is the most impressive, is they stayed patient and they stayed with the process. They have not allowed results to say, well, this result happened, so we have to now do this in a dramatic change because we have to make sure that doesn't happen again. They've said, listen, we have a plan in place. There is something we want to do. There is something that how we want to do it, and we're going to stick to it, and we're going to see what the results look like. And right now, it looks like the Hawks are trending in the right direction. And so, I think that just goes back to Quin and Trae and what they've been able to do for each other and how they've been able to really come together and be big components of this team. I mean, listen, from Trae's growth to Jalen, I mean, he's been a big component of that. Okongwu, just different guys who have really benefited from the Quin Snyder system and just him being their coach. And I think we need to give Quin Snyder his flowers for what he's done. Now, I'm not crowning him as this Hall of Fame legendary head coach for the Atlanta Hawks. But what I'm saying is that when you have buy-in, it goes a long way, especially when it comes from your star. We've heard multiple times how certain players do not get along with certain coaches and how that can impact the team. And now you're seeing 2 guys linked together who both feel like they need each other to win, and you're seeing the fruits of that labor. So really big stuff there, and I want to talk about that for a little bit because I think that's really important to the process that we've been seeing with the Atlanta Hawks and why the Hawks are going out and beating a lot of these good teams, because now they know, hey, Trae's bought in, and then everybody else buys in, and then everything's are infectious. Dyson Daniels' defense is infectious, effort is infectious, and people are now able to come out in these games and win. But let's go ahead and get into some player performances tonight. Dyson Daniels tonight, 23 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists from the field. And actually, before we get into Dyson Daniels, I want to quickly make a mention. Hawks shot 47% from the field. Boston shot 38%. 35% from the field. Defensively, the Hawks really played a really good game tonight. Boston shot 52 threes, only made 15. 15 is still a big number, but only 29%. Hawks didn't even have a good three-point shooting night. They shot 9 of 37. Hawks left some at the free throw line, had 17 turnovers, a lot of them early. Only 7 in the second half. 27 assists, 15 boards tonight. So from team perspective, they did what they needed to do. But Dyson Daniels, 23 points, man. 11 to 14 from the field. This was a very efficient offensive game for Dyson. And Dyson has had some success against the Celtics this year. He's been able to kind of, because he's a guy they like using as a cutter, or a guy they kind of like using Dyson as kind of a connector. I don't know if you guys have noticed that a lot, where he'll just kind of cut into the middle of the lane, and then obviously he has the float game where he can score, attack the rim, maybe get a layup, or he can have the ability to pass out of it. And tonight he was really able to take advantage of that against Boston. Boston let him get into the lane a lot. He took advantage. He was aggressive with the offense tonight. And 23, if you're getting 23 points by Dyson Daniels, that is definitely a really good sign for him, because that's just much needed offense that they needed. Especially, like I said, Jalen getting back, rusty, 14 for him. But, Dyson picking up that offensive slack and giving them what they need. And also understanding, listen, they're going to try to put their attention on Trae, Dyson, and I have to step up my offensive game and take that pressure off. Drew and Derek White are going to put pressure on him because Jason and all of them are going to guard the other guys. And so, Dyson tonight giving you 23 points, I think was really big for the Hawks just to get that production from him. And so really, really good game for Dyson. Second good offensive game in a row from Dyson Daniels. Like I said, Trae Young tonight, 28 and 11. Really didn't have a great shooting night tonight, but made some big shots down the stretch. 2 blocks tonight for Trae Young. Defense. And 2 steals. 5 of 5 from the free throw line. Like I said, hit that big shot late. Hit a couple of floaters in this game, and make some good decisions to help them create some good offense and help them eventually lead to the win. Like I said, got to be better with the technical. Got to be more smart in that situation. But outside of that, Trae Young tonight, again, played well enough for his team to win. Jalen Johnson, first game back from the shoulder, 14 points, 13 rebounds, 5 of 13 from the field. Obviously, a guy you could tell was getting back into form. Missed 3 free throws tonight, especially 2 late in that game that almost cost the Hawks in overtime, but Congo got the rebound. He was able to get it back up. He got to the foul line. Obviously, we'll probably start to see Jalen go through the ramping up process. He played tonight. You're off, and then you play ball. You play the Knicks on Monday at 3 p.m. on Martin Luther King Day. So you'll hope to see Jalen Johnson continue just to build off that performance, feel a little bit better, feel a little bit get more comfortable, and just get back into normal game flow of things, and being Jalen Johnson that we know he can be. Vic Krejci, 7 points tonight. 1 of 5 from 3. You saw him being a little bit more aggressive tonight. Again, I'd like to see that from Krejci. The aggressive offensive play is what they need, especially with him being a starter right now. Only gave him 7 tonight, but still gave him something. And he really did a good job, I think, defensively as well. Because obviously he's tasked with guarding guys like Tatum and Brown at times. So, and like I said, he also is a really good passer, so he helps within the connectivity of the offense. So Krejci, doing what he did tonight in his minutes. Obviously, Clint Capella, 3 points, 9 rebounds. These games aren't really Clint Capella games. Boston games are Okongwu games. That's just as simple as I can put it. So let's go to Okongwu. 19 and 13 tonight, 6 of 10 from the field, 2 or 3 from 3. Again, 4 blocks. Okongwu was protecting the rim tonight. And again, that just tells you Okongwu, man. I feel like he's been more active at the rim. And the big thing about Okongwu is I said this too. I said I feel like this man had that knee inflammation. It almost like he got right after that. He sat them games out, got himself right, and he's looked like a different player. From the 2020 game, doubles every game. I think he's the first player since Moses Malone to get 3 back-to-back doubles off the bench, I believe I saw. So, Okongwu has been huge. And with the trade deadline coming up, and I mentioned this on Twitter, with the trade deadline coming up, you don't know if these performances can make the Hawks brass feel much more better about maybe moving off Clint Capella and saying, let's go ahead and give Okongwu the reins and let's see how things go. And obviously your backup center would probably be Larry Nance, I'm assuming, unless they trade him too. And then if that's the case, it would be Dominic Barlow. But Okongwu came up really big tonight. Big free throws to win the game in overtime. Big rebound after 2 missed free throws from Jalen Johnson. Just big plays down the stretch. And he did what he needed to do. He was the key to this game, and he showed why if a Kongu plays really, really well against the Boston Celtics, the Hawks have a chance. Bogey tonight really was not offensively aggressive. He had 7 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 of 4 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. Really wasn't offensively aggressive tonight. Don't know if that was just how the game plan worked, but I mean, we were waiting for him to get out of this slump. He's been in a slump for a minute. Still waiting for him to fully get out of it. Because, I mean, ultimately the Hawks are going to need Bogey, especially his offense and shooting. And so you hope Bogey can kind of figure some things out and get himself right. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Because I've said multiple times in this podcast, he's been the one guy who kind of has seemed a little bit out of it in terms of like the syncness with the team. But they still know how important he is to what they do and what they need from him moving forward. And then Garrison Matthews tonight, 2 points. Didn't make a shot tonight. But he was 12 plus from the field. So when he was on the floor, Garrison Matthews was an effective player, apparently. But through his actions, energy, defense, things of that nature, just providing different things for this team. But, like I said, Hawks, really impressive win tonight, man. Really impressive win tonight over Boston, beating them twice this season, continuing to play really good against Eastern Conference teams. No matter the record, no matter who they are, no matter any of those things, playing really, really well. Hawks are 6-1 against teams in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. And, listen, you're in a good place that both Tatum and Brown struggled tonight. But I think the Hawks defense deserves a lot of credit for the performance we saw tonight. Really stepped up. Really, really did a good job of really, making it tough on Boston, making them work for every shot they had. And really, that's all you really ask for a lot of the time. It's just make them work, man. Make them work. Don't give them easy shots. Don't make it easy for them. If you make them work and they make it, okay. But if you make them work, they can get cold. They can miss some things, and then you end up being well. So big stuff, man. Big stuff from the Hawks. Really happy for them guys, and they just got to continue to build off of this performance and continue to move forward. So they play the Knicks, like I said, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or Martin Luther King, Jr. Day, 3 p.m. in Madison Square Garden. So Trae Young will return to the Garden for his last time this season. I'm really excited to see how this is going to go, how this is going to look. Hawks trying to go for 4 in a row, try to get to 4 games over 500, continuing to try to, they're only a game and a half back of the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. So the Hawks, like I said, this Eastern Conference is not going to run away from them. It's right there in front of them. They just got to continue to work, continue to build, continue to make winning plays. If they do that, the Hawks are going to be a team that people are going to be mentioning. They are a dangerous team for any of the top seeds, because right now they're beating the top seeds. And then with the way they're playing, you just never know. The Hawks stay healthy, could have 2021 all over again, which I know a lot of Hawks fans would love. And hopefully with a different result. So we'll have to see, obviously. But I appreciate you guys tuning in to Believe in Hawks podcast. Obviously, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, like the video. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. Also, follow your boy Bryce on Brycey_2K. Keep up with all my Hawks takes over there. And, we'll continue to go and do our thing, man. So I appreciate you guys. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.